The Second World War now happened 80 years ago. And I think Europe now is ready to see the Second World War in a more complicated way, moving away from this kind of US-UK victor-centric narrative towards a more complicated one in which the end of European imperialism, the rise of Asian nation states has a much greater significance. And that means moving away from this intense focus on Europe, it's still the dominant account of the Second World War, to one in which Asia is placed much more central. I think this is where scholarship is important, where teaching is important, and where your kinds of interviews are very, very useful. I think these ideas can actually take ground. They can take off quite quickly. But I think the interesting part of this is really how you date it. It also has an influence on what you see as the Second World War. I would be more comfortable in saying, well, the all-out war, all-out resistance began in 1937. It was then that the Chinese communists and the nationalists established the United Front that was critical in resisting the Japanese. And I think the other element that's so often forgotten, where's the real difference between European and Asian remembrances, is that for many people in Asia, including in China, of course, but also in India and Indonesia, the Second World War was not simply about defeating Japanese imperialism. It was also about defeating European imperialism. I think one important lesson is that the Second World War, certainly at the end was total war, is both hugely devastating, causing enormous suffering and destruction, and set societies back for decades. But it's also uncontrollable. You had, at the time, everybody thought they could control, certainly Japan, but other world leaders too did think that they could control how this war was going to be waged, how it was going to be managed, what the outcomes would be. And of course, that proved not true. And war is too unmanageable to be able to allow that to happen. I think that's a real lesson